You're at a backyard barbecue this weekend, standard suburban Saturday. Burgers on the grill, somebody's kid screaming about a popsicle. And you notice your neighbor, the guy in the faded polo and the 10-year-old Toyota, quietly mention that he just paid cash for his daughter's first semester of college. No financing, no loan, just wrote a check. You smile, nod, refill your drink. But on the drive home, you can't stop thinking about it because 2 streets over lives a guy with a leased Mercedes, a boat in the driveway, and a kitchen renovation that hit the local Facebook group. And somehow, you're now 90% sure the polo guy has more money than him. Way more. My name is Nick, and I spend way too much time thinking about money and the weird signals people send with it. Because here's the part nobody tells you. In America, the people who look rich are usually drowning, and the people who actually have money look like they're on their way to a Lowe's. And if you can't tell the difference, you're going to spend the next 10 years trying to copy the wrong people. Hit that subscribe button, give this video a thumbs up, and let's fix that. Sign 1. They drive something deeply, profoundly boring. Let's start with the most visible one because it's the one that breaks people's brains the fastest. The number 1 car brand among American millionaires is Toyota. Number 2 is Honda. Number 3 is Ford. The list keeps going through Subaru, Lexus, Acura, Buick, and somewhere down there eventually BMW shows up looking embarrassed. This data comes from Dave Ramsey's National Study of Millionaires, which surveyed over 10,000 actual 7-figure households, and separately from researcher Thomas Stanley, who'd spent 40 years studying the wealthy and found that 86% of luxury vehicles in this country are driven by people who are not millionaires. Read that again. 86%, which means the next time you see a brand new G-Wagon roll past you at a red light, the statistically correct emotional response is mild concern, not envy. Think about the person in your life who has driven the same Camry or RAV4 for the last decade and shrugs every time you mention they should upgrade. That shrug is wealth. They paid $28,000 cash for it in 2019 and they plan to drive it until 2031. They're not making a statement. They're just refusing to set $800 on fire every month for the privilege of impressing strangers at red lights. Sign 2, their house is shockingly normal. Sign number 2 is even more counterintuitive, and it's the single biggest financial decision most people will ever make. Stanley found that the typical American millionaire bought a home worth roughly 1.5 times their annual income. Most cap it around 3 times. Meanwhile, the average American is now stretching to buy a home worth 6 or 7 times what they make in a year. Real wealthy people understand a brutal truth. Your house controls your entire financial life. The mortgage sets your monthly floor. The neighborhood sets your social pressure. The square footage sets your insurance, your property taxes, and how much furniture you feel obligated to buy. Every dollar you commit to housing is a dollar you cannot invest, save, or use to buy your time back later. Here's the part that always shocks people. Warren Buffett, currently sitting on roughly $140 billion, still lives in the 5-bedroom stucco house in Omaha he bought in 1958 for $31,500. He calls it the 3rd best investment he's ever made, behind his 2 wedding rings. So if you can think of someone in your life who has a totally normal house in a totally normal neighborhood and shows 0 interest in moving up, that's not a lack of ambition. That is the ambition. They figured out the house was the trap and they walked around it. Sign 3. They wear absolutely nothing you'd recognize. Now flip the script and look at what they wear, because this one separates the players from the cosplayers immediately. In one of his most famous studies, Stanley surveyed actual American millionaires and found that half of them, had never paid more than $400 for a suit in their entire lives. Half had never paid more than $235 for a watch. Half had never paid more than $140 for a pair of shoes. The typical millionaire's haircut, tip included, ran about $16 at a regular barbershop. Which means somewhere out there is a guy worth $4 million wearing a JCPenney blazer and a Timex, judging your Hugo Boss situation in complete silence. You know what they're not wearing? Visible logos. They are not wrapping themselves in giant Gucci belt buckles or Louis Vuitton monogram everything. That entire aesthetic, the loud, branded, look at me luxury, is almost exclusive